Tonight on Reporting Scotland, remembering VJ Day. Commemorations are held across the country to mark the 80th anniversary of Japan's surrender and the end of the Second World War.
The peace we have just now is certainly dependent on the work that they did and the service that they made all those years ago.
Also on the programme, a major search operation is underway in Perth after a man went missing in the River Tay. A former RAF test pilot says a Chinook that crashed in 1994, killing 29 people, was a show flight to prove the helicopter was safe. Business leaders in the north say proposals to cut the speed limit on single carriage roads could disadvantage rural communities and cause more frustration for drivers.
And coming up in tonight's sport, there's heartbreak and elation on a mixed night of European football for Scottish clubs.
Hello, I'm Laura Goodwin. Welcome to Friday's programme. "80 years ago today, World War II officially came to an end when Japan surrendered to the Allied forces. It was a moment celebrated around the world. The fighting had finally finished, 3 months after victory in Europe was declared. Across Scotland, communities are remembering the sacrifice of those who fought on in the Pacific and Far East and the thousands of prisoners of war who died in Japanese captivity. Gillian Sharp has this report.
An early morning lament sounds from Edinburgh Castle, marking the start of commemorations.
History is in the making at Yokosuka Naval Base as General MacArthur arrives to board a waiting destroyer.
That Japanese surrender finally bringing an end to 6 long years of war. In the capital this morning, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh attended a memorial service. Charmaine McMeekan's father, Eric Lomax, was a Japanese prisoner of war. His book, The Railwayman, detailing his experiences, was turned into a film.
I think they were starved to death and got every disease known to man, and I think they were amazingly resilient in the way that they coped with it. I know that my father fought really, really hard to stay alive.
Events too in Inverness, Orkney and Shetland. In Aberdeen, today's anniversary was marked at the Gordon Highlanders Monument. Some of those watching, tourists with their own family connections.
My father and my wife's father fought in Europe, and then my father was put on orders to go to Japan before it was concluded, but you know, I'm glad that they're still remembering this type of activity. Remember those men and women who died for us.
Paying tribute at the Erskine home in Bishopton, 90-year-old Norman Seymour was just 10 when the war ended. His memories are of the celebrations which followed.
And the streets were absolutely packed, you know, the next day. That was every street. And then the parties started, you know, there was parties every day, and that was the end of the war.
I think people just need to remember that there are still people alive who served and who suffered greatly during that period, and that the peace we have just now is certainly dependent on the work that they did and the service that they made all those years ago.
Veterans, families and staff from the Erskine home walk and wheel across the Erskine Bridge this morning. Their way, said one, of honouring those who didn't come home. Gillian Sharp, Reporting Scotland.
A search operation is underway in Perth after a man went missing in the River Tay. It's understood 3 people got into difficulty in the water yesterday evening. 2 men were found and were checked by paramedics, but efforts are ongoing to locate the third. Well, Richard Forbes is in Perth for us tonight. What is the latest?
Well, Laura, as you say, it's been 24 hours since the 3 men went into the water here behind me. And as we were setting up this evening, the police divers were pulling on their wetsuits. So it seems the search is set to continue into the weekend. Now, it was around 7:45 last night when the emergency services started receiving phone calls to say the men were in trouble near to Moncrief Island. By the time they arrived on the scene, 2 men had made it back to the bank. However, a 27-year-old man remains missing. The police called in the fire service and their boats have been on the water. Helicopters were also seen hovering over the water, and specialist equipment's been brought in to let them look under the surface. The local mountain rescue team has also been helping to search the riverbank. Now, this section of Tay Street where we're standing was closed to motorists and pedestrians earlier, but it's now fully reopened. And finally, Laura, I was talking to one eyewitness who said he was here last night on his jet ski and he tried to help the 3rd man. He said the water conditions here are challenging, with the river flowing one way and the tide pushing the other, which makes it very difficult to work out exactly where someone might have been carried to.
OK, Richard, thank you. 6 men who carried out a series of violent attacks, including attempted murder and setting fire to the cars of prison officers, have been jailed for a total of more than 100 years. The group targeted a number of victims in and around Edinburgh between late 2022 and early 2023. The court heard how one victim's hand was almost completely severed in a machete attack. Katie Hunter reports.
The crimes these men committed were described as out-of-control gangsterism in court. Ryan McGovern, John Murray and Dale Bald, along with Michael Heaps, Lee Ridgway and Damien Mullen, who can't be shown for legal reasons, were sentenced to a combined total of 101 years in prison. It followed a trial at the High Court in Glasgow, which finished last month. The convictions included attempted murders, willful fire-raising and attempting to pervert the course of justice. One of the gang's victims previously described how his hand was left hanging off following an attack. He was taken to hospital and operated on for 12 hours. Some of the men were convicted of setting fire to prison officers' cars at Addywell Prison in 2023. Speaking after the convictions last month, police described their actions as completely unacceptable.
These have been a whole series of really serious crimes of violence, attempted murder, where people have had cars driven at them, cars have been forced off the road, people have been assaulted with machetes, we've had fire raisings, and we've had attempts to cover their tracks, I suppose. So I'm really pleased that significant resource was put into the inquiry, and I'm really pleased to see that that's paid off.
There were gasps from some of the men's supporters in court this afternoon as the sentences were read out. Michael Heaps received 23 years, Lee Ridgway 22 years, John Murray and Dale Bald 17 years each, Damien Mullen 14 years and Ryan McGovern 8 years. The judge, Lord Mulholland, said the sentences imposed on these men were intended to both punish and deter. Katie Hunter reporting Scotland, the High Court in Glasgow.
Some of the day's other stories now. A second man has appeared in court charged with murder after the death of a 25-year-old man in Aberdeen. Austin Ironside was taken to Aberdeen Royal Infirmary after emergency services were called to Skene Street earlier this month. He died 2 days later. Sean Lurch, who's 34, appeared at Aberdeen Sheriff Court where he was charged with murder and robbery. He made no plea and was remanded in custody. Yesterday, 46-year-old Scott Adams also appeared in the docks facing the same charges. It's been confirmed the pilot whales which stranded in Sanday last week will be left on the shoreline to decompose. 23 of the mammals were found on Sunday. Orkney Islands Council says recovering the whales' bodies from the sea or land is not practical. The public are being asked to stay away from the area. Glasgow's landmark cinema Cineworld is to close at the end of next month. Affected employees have posted documents on social media suggesting all staff are at risk of redundancy. A letter to staff from management said workers could be offered roles at venues within the chain and a consultation process will last until the end of September. A Chinook helicopter that crashed in Scotland more than 30 years ago, killing 29 people, was being flown as a show flight to prove to the Army it was safe, according to a former RAF test pilot. Families of those who died in the crash have renewed their call for a full public inquiry into what went wrong. Here's our correspondent, David Henderson.
Wreckage on a burnt-out hillside on the Mull of Kintyre, all that was left of an RAF Chinook helicopter flying from Northern Ireland to Inverness. Everyone on board, all 4 crew members and 25 passengers, perished in the crash. And more than 3 decades on, it's still not clear how it happened. But today, a former test pilot told us there were concerns at the time that this new type of Chinook, the Mark II, was not airworthy, and this was a show flight by the Royal Air Force to prove otherwise.
The RAF wanted to demonstrate that the aircraft was safe and they could put their most trusted and valuable list of passengers in the context of the security operation in Northern Ireland on board altogether. What a silly decision.
The helicopter crash came at the height of the troubles in Northern Ireland, and among the 29 passengers on board were intelligence experts leading the fight against the Provisional IRA, as well as senior members of the military and the police.
Totally sickening to think that my dad, along with those other individuals, were basically guinea pigs, showcasing an aircraft that was positively dangerous, that was deemed unairworthy in previous tests, and they were sent anyway.
At first, the pilots were blamed for the crash for flying too low and too fast, but they were later cleared.
I think it's time that the MOD came out with the truth.
Several families have called for a full public inquiry, but last week the Prime Minister ruled that out, saying it's unlikely it would identify any new evidence or reach new conclusions. The family's lawyer disagrees.
It's frankly incredible that 31 years on, we still haven't looked at what was known about the airworthiness of that particular aircraft. It's been excluded from all the previous inquiries. And indeed, when there was a crash in Afghanistan some years ago, they did include the airworthiness of the plane within the terms of reference. But that's been excluded in relation to these families.
So those families will now try to challenge the decision not to hold an inquiry, in the hope the truth about what happened here may finally emerge.
And David is with us now. David, as you say in your report, for the families of those who were on board, this is certainly not over.
No, indeed. I mean, they've been seeking answers for 3 decades now, so they think that their fight for justice must go on. Last week came that decision from the UK government not to order a judge-led public inquiry, and that's because UK ministers say it's unlikely that any such inquiry would reveal new evidence or reach new conclusions based on the evidence which already exists. And they also point to the fact that this crash has been the subject of 6 inquiries and investigations so far, including a judge-led independent review. But as we've heard there, the family's lawyers say that all these inquiries to date have not been able to ask that one key question, which was there a problem with the helicopter at the outset, which put the crew and the passengers at risk. And they also want to take a look at official documents, official papers, which have been sealed for 100 years. So they're seeking permission to challenge the government's decision in court. The problem is that the wheels of justice grind slowly. So the earliest that this judicial review could be heard in court is about a year from now.
OK. David, many thanks indeed. Tonight's main news again. Commemorations have been held across the country to mark the 80th anniversary of Japan's surrender and the end of the Second World War, and to remember the sacrifice of those who fought during the conflict.
And still to come in the sport, we look ahead to a big opening weekend in the SWPL.
Business leaders in the north of Scotland say proposals to reduce the speed limit on single carriage roads from 60 to 50 miles per hour could disadvantage rural communities. The Scottish Government agency Transport Scotland is currently analysing thousands of responses to a public consultation on the plans. But some say a speed reduction could cause more frustration for drivers and suggest work should be done to improve the roads instead. Ailey Davis reports.
Accidents on Scotland's roads are a big safety concern. The Scottish Government is looking at lowering the speed limit on some roads in a bid to cut the number of crashes and injuries. But chambers of commerce across the Highlands and Moray are worried about the impact of such a move.
The Scottish Government put this out to proposal, and they sort of act as if single carriageway roads are small little roads that people don't use much. But in the Highlands, it is the A9, it's the A96, it's all the main roads to Caithness. So it's our main arterial routes. And taking the speed down from 60 to 50, we don't believe would actually achieve their aim of causing less accidents. We think driver frustration would then creep up, and if anything, accidents would get worse.
These proposals are currently being looked at by Transport Scotland as they analyse responses to the consultation. But here in the Highlands, there's mixed views.
It depends where that is. If it's the rural roads where there's no other traffic or very little traffic, I think when it comes into nearer towns and going through villages and stuff like that, yes, I would agree with that.
It's certainly not a bad thing. I think there's a lot of traffic on the roads, especially at this time of year, so I think dropping it to 50 would potentially help a lot of the accidents that are happening.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea. Anything that's going to bring the accident rates down, it's got to be a good thing.
The roads are too slow as it is. I think 60 mile an hour is fair enough. If everybody would do 60 mile an hour, the roads would be a lot safer.
Driving long distances, especially in the Highlands, takes time, and some residents are worried that lowering the speed limit will make journeys even longer.
Here in the Highlands, we are absolutely dependent on our private motor vehicles to get from A to B, on public service vehicles, etc., etc. Quite clearly, by reducing a limit from 60 to 50, it's going to greatly increase journey times, it's going to increase frustration, and frustration is what leads to road accidents.
Transport Scotland say they're committed to making Scotland's roads the safest in the world by 2030, and the proposed speed limit changes are aimed at saving lives and reducing serious injuries. A decision on whether to reduce speed limits is yet to be made, but in the meantime the issue is likely to continue to provoke debate. Ailey Davis reporting Scotland, Inverness.
Well, let's get to night sport with Lewis. Lewis, you often promise a night of drama in football. I'm still recovering from last night.
There was a lot going on, wasn't there? Hard to keep an eye on everything at once, but it was quite the evening, wasn't it?
Was.
Thanks very much. So that's where we start tonight. Hello there. Yes, a dramatic night of European football indeed, and an incredible goal. Hibernian striker Kieran Bowie admits he'll probably never score another like it, as he helped his team book their place in the Conference League playoffs, where they'll play Legia Warsaw. Hibs were leading 2-0 from the first leg against Partizan Belgrade, but the Serbians took advantage of a couple of goalkeeping mistakes to level the tie on aggregate before half-time at Easter Road. Then, just before the hour mark, this happened. Bowie with a goal that sparked wild scenes in the dugout and all around the stadium too. The fans certainly will have been enjoying that one, and it managed to pull the game back level towards the end there. Partizan were reduced to 10 men, but they did take it to extra time before Chris Cadden finally put the tie to bed. It's a night many there will never forget, least of all Kieran Bowie.
I don't think I'll ever do anything like that ever again. I've tried it a few times. I tried it against Kelly from the halfway line. Tried it after that one, and obviously I got confidence at the moment, so it just sat up nicely, and I thought I would just hit it, and it couldn't have gone any more in the top corner. I think the goalie after it was asking Boiler, why did I shoot? So that just sums it up, really.
It's probably been an unbelievable game to watch. From my point of view, it was horrendous to watch at times, but listen, as a neutral it'd be fantastic, and ultimately it's a brilliant result to get through to the next round. Having beaten them over 2 legs is an incredible achievement.
Well, it was also an eventful night at Tannadice, but not the outcome that Dundee United were after, as their European adventure came to an end. It was all going so well for Jim Goodwin's side too in the first half, as Max Waters' double gave them a 2-goal advantage over Rapid Vienna. But the Austrians fought back to take the tie to extra time before winning on penalties.
It's sad that we didn't go through and that we cannot continue our dream in the group stages even, because that was our target. So yeah, that's the sad part, but that's football sometimes, and life continues, and we have to fight to achieve it again for next season.
Rangers striker Cyril Dessers could be fit in time to feature in Tuesday night's Champions League playoff against Club Brugge, after head coach Russell Martin revealed his injury is not as bad as first feared. The forward won't recover in time to face Alloa Athletic in tomorrow's Premier Sports Cup clash after picking up an injury against Victoria Pilsen earlier in the week. And Martin says any criticism of his side's performances must be ignored if they hope to improve.
One of the maintenance guys here this week said we're turning a tank around, Gaffer, and it will just take some time, but when we get it going. And I thought it was a perfect analogy, and he's a great guy. He was here when I was here before. I don't want to embarrass him, but honestly, when he said it, I was like, no, you're right. We just qualified for the Champions League. I spoke to the staff on Sunday after Dundee because everyone here supports the club, and they really feel things. But our job in here is to try and just work and not let like the outside noise affect how we work. It just can't.
Stephen Robinson aims to keep building after signing a new deal as St Mirren manager that ties him to the club until 2028. The Northern Irishman took over at the Buddies in 2022 and has overseen top 6 finishes in the past 3 seasons. They host Hearts in the Cup tomorrow.
We have to build an infrastructure and a team and a process that allows that to happen a lot more often. We're building our fan base. There's a lot of good stuff being done off the pitch as well, which doesn't get seen by the staff in the background, and that's important to continue that and keep chipping away, keep pushing the club forward. And I wouldn't have signed if I didn't believe I had that backing of people in terms of the right direction of the football club, and I believe that's the direction we're going in.
Well, the last 16 of the Cup kicks off tonight when holders Celtic host Falkirk. There are 4 3 o'clock fixtures tomorrow, and then on Sunday Hibs and United will make to look quick recoveries when they take on Kilmarnock and Livingston respectively. Now, the SWPL returns this weekend with a new 10-team top flight. There have been 4 different winners of the league in the last 4 years. We heard from champions Hibs earlier in the week. Let's hear from the other 3 now.
We build a team that can go and challenge, and that's kind of what I would say I'm getting from being in-house is we know that we've got a squad that is going to be competitive.
When you look at the last day at Ibrox was obviously a difficult one, and I also told the players to go away and feel that emotion, feel the hurt, take it all in, because that's what's going to make you stronger for the coming season ahead.
It's been good to get the girls back in and try and make the wrongs right. Of course, we've got new players in, hopefully more to come by the deadline. But yeah, it's been exciting. We're looking forward to Sunday.
Well, away from football, it's going to be a busy weekend at Knockhill Racing Circuit, where 3-time British touring car champion Gordon Shedden is amongst the Scots hoping for podium places as the showpiece rolls into Fife for its annual visit in front of 15,000 fans. Our reporter Kenny Crawford has gone along too.
Yeah, Lewis, it looks like it's going to be a brilliant weekend for racing here at Knockhill. We're currently in the paddock, standing in front of the car of Gordon Shedden, 3-time champion, and he joins me now too. Gordon, you must be tremendously excited about the weekend ahead here.
It is. It's the biggest event and a real kind of party atmosphere here at Knockhill this weekend. So for me to get to race at home, the only time I get to race in Scotland, this year, it gives me that extra spring in my step to have a fantastic weekend.
And you recently got win number 53. Is there going to be another one in the cards this weekend?
Oh, I hope so. People say is there extra pressure, but it's definitely not worth any lap time. But I know my way around here. I've done millions of laps, and it certainly will not be through a lack of trying. We'll have a great weekend.
Okay, wish you all the best, Gordon Shedden. He's confident, and you can hear from Gordon at more length on Reporting Scotland News at 7 shortly on the BBC Scotland channel.
And finally, it looks like something pretty special is brewing for Robert McIntyre in the BMW Championship, the latest event in the FedEx Cup playoffs. The golfer from Oban is currently head and shoulders above the very best in the field, like world number 1 Scotty Scheffler. And you have to be pretty confident to carry a drive over the water like that. McIntyre is at 13 under par, 5 ahead of second best Tommy Fleetwood, midway through his second round, so there is still lots of golf to be played. But yes, he is looking pretty confident, Laura. Incredible stuff here. So hoping he does well at the weekend. I want to keep an eye on as well. Ben Doak, the Scotland winger, could be on the move from Liverpool, so that could be interesting.
Thank you very much, Lewis.
Thank you.
And the news at 7 is coming up in a few minutes over on the BBC Scotland channel. They've been speaking to jazz musician Fergus McCready, who has just provided part of the soundtrack to a new film by legendary Hollywood director Spike Lee.
When I got a call from a New York number in July, and I just assumed it was spam. And then I got an email from someone claiming to be Spike Lee. I was like, oh, this also must be just part of the scam, so I just ignored it. Until eventually, I think my manager was like, maybe we should just check, just in case it is real, and then that turned out it was real.
Time now for a look at the weather forecast with Christopher. It's been such a nice week. Is it carrying on into the weekend?
It's been quite a hot week, hasn't it, actually? Temperatures up to 31 degrees on Wednesday. A little bit cooler this weekend, but dry. Brilliant picture there from Iona earlier. Gorgeous. Thank you very much, Laura. Good evening to you. Yes, quite a mixed picture today, actually. Many areas had some bright, sunny weather, but there was also some stubborn cloud. This is the satellite image from earlier. You can see where the cloud was holding on. You can see where the sun broke through. Shetland having a pretty decent day there. Now, as we go through the course of this evening, some evening sunshine, but some cloud towards eastern parts of the country, eastern coastal areas. Bit of a drizzle perhaps at times, but generally dry. Temperatures overnight through central and southern Scotland, 12 to 14 Celsius. Touch cooler further north, perhaps reaching single digits. Now this weekend, it's dry, it's settled. High pressure is with us, and actually it will be turning warmer again as we go through towards Sunday. But let's take a look at Saturday first. Here we go. You can see it's a bit of a cloudy start through the central lowlands and the south. That cloud should dissipate. The sun will break through. Across northern Scotland, sunshine really from the word go. But you can see a different day across the Northern Isles compared with what we saw today. So mid-afternoon, light winds and just a bit of fair weather cloud at times. Very pleasant 20 to 23 Celsius. One or two spots, maybe 24. A little bit cooler towards North Sea coast, and certainly where we have that cloud lingering across the Northern Isles. A bit more breeze here too. Plenty of sunshine though across the Northwest Highlands and through the Hebrides. And tomorrow is the last day of the World Pipe Band Championships on Glasgow Green. It's dry, bit of a cloudy start, but the sunshine is set to break through with temperatures reaching 22 or 23 degrees. Saturday evening, evening sunshine, once again dry, once again cloudy in the Northern Isles, coming in on those winds from the northwest, and temperatures for all just a touch lower, 9 to 11 Celsius tomorrow night. That takes us to the second half of the weekend on Sunday. We still have that veil of cloud across the Northern Isles, perhaps in towards Caithness, the Banff and Buchan coast as well, but elsewhere set fair and warmer, as I said. So across western parts of the country, 25 or 26 degrees. In the east, it will be cooler, bit of a breeze coming in off the North Sea, you see. And then to next week, high pressure sticking with us, but its shape, its orientation has changed a little bit, and the wind's now more northerly, and that means a bit more cloud, certainly across the north and the east. Initially, on Monday, you can see in the west it's still sunny, it's still warm, temperatures 24 to 26 degrees, cooler where we have that cloud. It could be low cloud at times too. And then come Tuesday, a little more moisture being picked up by those winds as they travel over the sea, so a cloudier picture for all. But this weekend, dry. That's the forecast for now.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Not too bad at all. Thank you. And Christopher and I will be here with your late news at around 10:30. But until then, from everyone on the team, whatever you're doing, do enjoy the weekend and the rest of your evening. And thank you very much indeed for being with us. Bye-bye.